Welcome, everybody. Like we said, thank you so much for being here with us for this session, Designed to Thrive. We're really excited. Alcine and I have tried to create something where hopefully you'll be gaining some new information, but mostly you're going to have a chance to play around, experiment, build something that will be relevant in your own work. We're hopefully going to have a lot of fun in the next 60 minutes, and we're really excited that you are here. So we'll introduce ourselves. Alcine, maybe can you take us to the next slide? Awesome. So my name is Abby Benedetto. I am a deeper learning coach at Envision Learning Partners. We are a group based in the Bay Area that helps people to think, school leaders, district leaders, educational leaders from around the country, to help people think about how we can transform education through the lens of making assessment better. Which hopefully will then make teaching and learning better. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm super excited to be here with my colleague Alcine. She's a miracle, so I'll let her say hello to you.
Oh, that is a good one. I'm going to use that. You call me game changer miracle. I love it, Abby. She's my ego boost in the morning. Hi, I'm Alcine Mumby. I am had the honor of working with Abby for quite a while, actually. I knew Abby when she was an amazing student teacher, y'all, and I could see it in her that she had all that beautiful talent. And so, yes, as Abby says, we travel the country working with districts all over the country, helping them to measure what matters. And so that's what we're going to be working together today doing, and specifically thinking about how we can make sure that we are designing for the most marginalized students so that they can thrive, not just be a part of assessment, not just enter assessment, not just do okay, but actually thrive. And we hold that power as designers, as educators. That's what we can do in this moment and in this time to really make sure that assessment, that our students are provided opportunities where they can really demonstrate what they know and can do. So yeah, hold tight, Abby. Am I going to the next slide for us?
You sure?
Okay.
All right, so again, this is a really short session. Normally we have the luxury of a little bit more time with folks. So we're gonna try to make it as interactive as possible, but we're really gonna rely on the chat for a lot because we won't have time. There's about 37 of us in the room right now. We won't have time to have everybody sort of share out all the time. So right now we would ask that everybody just light up the chat. Tell us your role, the number of years you've been in education. And if you think about the prompt of what, in your opinion right now, what does it look like, sound like for students and adults to thrive in their learning this year? So just take a second. We'll sort of be commenting on what you share. Don't feel like you can certainly think for a second, but we'd love to, thank you, Alcine. We'd love to have people be able to just sort of see who's here in the room. I love that people are already talking in the chat about the weather in different places. It sounds like people are coming from all over. And, but we'd also love to get a sense of just sort of where, who you are and what your experience is and your thoughts on this idea of thrive. It is the central theme of this workshop of what does it mean to thrive, and specifically what does it mean for our most marginalized students to thrive. So this is great. We've got coaches. It looks like we've got some real innovation folks, some teachers, some school leaders. This is so great.
Oh, wait. Hi, Olivia. I just saw Olivia. She's my mentor, my fairy godmother. I call her all my things, but hi.
That's awesome.
And yay. I can't find my thing anymore. Where did it go? Okay.
You're gonna be fine.
Yeah. Yep. I'm shucky ducky. Okay, trying to.
This is also really cool because we've got folks who have been in education for a really significant amount of time. I'm seeing like 20 years, 30 years, things like that. And then also some folks who are sort of on the earlier side, so under 10. This is great. I love it when we have a wide variety of roles and places and experience. Thank you all for lighting up the chat with sort of where you're coming from, etc.
Okay, sorry, Abby.
How we doing, Alcine?
Yep, we're gonna rock it out. We're gonna continue regardless. So, yeah, I can't find my. Yeah, this. You remember when this happened to you and you just?
I do. Do you want me to? Yeah. Do you want me to take over sharing?
Yeah. Yes, please. Okay. Oh no, I think I figured it out. Okay, got it. Yep. Teamwork, y'all.
You
Oh
got
no,
this.
nope. I don't
All
got
right.
this.
Chris,
Can you
you're so
share?
great. Okay,
I
here
have
we
no
go.
clue where it went.
It'll
Okay.
it'll it'll show up. That's what happened to me last time.
Okay.
It'll just show up at some point.
So sorry if I'm looking up. That's where the Zoom is, but everything that I need is down here.
All right,
And
here we go.
okay, so for today, thank you. For today, what are we going to do today? Our learning outcomes is we will analyze a performance assessment and map it. We'll analyze it from the lens of our high quality performance assessment criteria, something that ELP has created. And then you'll apply student personas. This will engage in an empathy activity where we apply different student personas to reflect on an assessment experience that is already designed. We're not going to take that time to design one today. And we're going to think about it from the persona of from the perspective of what do these students need in order to thrive? And then what shifts would we make to this assessment experience that we have designed so that students thrive and that they're centered in our what we build together. So we're going to move through some, you'll hear us give a little bit of a mini lesson, and then you're going to be in small groups discussing the student personas, the strengths and the assets that students bring to the assessment experience, and then the shifts, and then we're gonna close. It's gonna feel really fast, and I'm sorry, because we normally don't like to move this quickly, but we only have an hour. So for our norms today, thank you, Abby Bay. For our norms today, we're going to stay engaged in the experience, even if the text starts to act all funky and crazy. We're going to speak with and from integrity. And I love the term speaking with and from integrity. It means, for me, speaking from wholeness. So whatever I can bring into the room that is coming from a place of wholeness, where we're bringing positive language, we're not bringing deficit mindsets, but we're really speaking from what is possible, even if it is not quite yet if it's just out of our reach. We're still going to be bringing and speaking from this place of wholeness. We expect and we will expect and we will experience discomfort, and we're going to lean into that and be curious about that, right? We're going to listen to understand. So if someone says something or there are some ideas that come forth, be curious about them, ask questions. We're doing equity work, and equity work means that sometimes it's a dance, right? And sometimes we are clumsy in our dancing. Sometimes we drop the ball, or we drop each other. Hopefully we won't do that today, but that's what happens in dancing sometimes. And so we also need to acknowledge our intent and our impact. Sometimes those might not be aligned. And we expect and accept non-closure. We're not going to wrap up this thing in a bow. We're going to try, but we know that actually the work we do today is just the beginning. And Abby's going to leave us with a beautiful next step for us. And so I offer these norms as a way that we will work together as a community, but they'll take about 10 seconds, knowing what we're going to do, that we'll be working in small groups. We're going to be doing some listening, some analyzing. Which of these norms for you will you need to lean into and hold for yourself and make sure that you hold tight to, especially during challenging moments that you might have. So take about 10 seconds. And if you want to if you want to put them in the chat, just set a norm for yourself. All right. We can move forward, Abby, and I'll just keep an eye on the chat and
Okay.
and bring out any norms that I see.
This is me, right?
Yes. It is.
Okay, so at ELP, at Envision Learning Partners, we have spent about a little over 10 years really thinking about performance assessment. It's sort of what we bring to the work. And it's something that we believe in deeply in terms of how we can, like Alcine said, measure what matters. We believe that performance assessment is one of the key ways in which we can do that. So today, what we mean when we say performance assessment can include these 4 things. It's definitely not limited to this, but we want you to think about, so these are sort of 4 of the most common forms of sort of culminating performance assessments that we talk about with folks. Student-led conferences, exhibitions of learning, capstone projects, and portfolio defenses. What we love about these is that these are really rich environments that allow students to show what they know, to demonstrate what they've learned and the skills that they are building in really deeply authentic and transformative ways. So today, when we talk about performance assessment, these are the 4 things we're sort of going to be thinking about. Over the last probably 6 months, Envision Learning Partners, our team has been working on how do we help folks as we are sort of guiding systems into adopting and building really high quality performance assessment. How do we actually help them with that even more? And what we realized is that we wanted to create sort of a list of quality criteria that outline if you are designing performance assessments, here are some things that you could think about that will get you on a path to really ending up with some high quality learning. So these are what we now call HQPA, high quality performance assessment. We sort of, we're modeling after the PBL works, their gold standard HQPBL. And so we've worked with PBL works for as long as we've both been in existence. and so, and so they're wonderful friends of ours. And so we decided we would sort of map to that. So the way that we are articulating the quality criteria of high quality performance assessment is this list. We want to make sure that it's eliciting evidence of like learning that matters, that kids need out in the real world, et cetera. It's tight on criteria for success. So you have really clear ideas of what your outcomes are, and it's open to different learner approaches. So we think about equity, access, et cetera. We really want to allow for students to make their way through the assessment as sort of in different ways as possible. We want it, of course, to be as authentic as we can possibly make it. And then also to make sure that includes moments for reflection and revision so that it's a learning experience in and of itself. So we're going to root ourselves in HQPA today, and we're actually going to give you an experience to try to sort of pull some of these out yourself as we're watching an assessment, so you can like play around with your understanding of these things.
Hey, Abby,
Yeah.
do you feel should we give like one sentence blurb over the differences between the 4 different types of PA, do you think? Or is it not? Okay, yep.
I think we're okay.
Okay, yep. All right. So I wasn't paying attention to the chat to see how many high school, elementary, who we have in the room. I'm afraid to actually move my mouse to get to my new thing because in
It
fear
looks
that
like we have people that sort of span the whole thing. I was looking and it doesn't seem like we have a clear one. There's a couple people who have said that they're more high school, but there's lots of people who are talking about K-12. We've got a lot of people in here who are not directly in the classroom or attached to a
Okay.
single school. So
Okay. So yeah, so let's look at let's watch Tarshays.
okay.
Okay.
Cool.
So we're going to watch an example of this is a portfolio defense. This is a portfolio defense. So what happens in a portfolio defense is a student essentially goes through a process where they have to make a claim that they are ready, how they've used their 4 years in our schools to get ready for their next step. For us, it's going to college. And they have to demonstrate how they have used 4 critical skills. We call them leadership skills in that preparation, and how they and pull evidence from their 4 years that they are ready, that they are proficient, and they're ready to move on. So this is a student who's going to share about her literary analysis project, where she applied a particular framework of analysis to a novel. And she's also going to explain the connections it has for her as a learner and what she wants for herself in the future. So this is a portfolio defense. Think of it like a dissertation defense, but light, because these are high school students. And so we're going to see the full her presentation and a Q&A. It's about 6 minutes long. Oops, I'm clicking on mine like I'm running the show. Sorry, Abby, can you advance?
That's okay. Alcine, one thing I just realized that we didn't do, can you put the link to the slideshow into the chat so that folks can access the slideshow?
Of course. Here's the slideshow, and it's editable for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can type in straight into the slideshow because we're going to work together. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the question that we're looking at is, what evidence of the high quality performance assessment, HQPA, do we see in this example of a performance assessment?
Mm-hmm.
What do you see and hear students doing that connects to any of those criteria? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I just put HQPA in the chat, but now you should be able to access the slideshow as well. So if you want to reference what, because we're asking you to look for things. So just to make sure that you are clear on what we are looking for.
Okay,
I'm seeing some
I'll
things come
change
into
the
the
permission.
chat.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to bring us into Tarshay.
My last and final artifact is my literary lenses artifact.
Can you turn it up a little bit more, Abby?
And
we can't
connect you
yep,
is my ability to think critically by analyzing complex ideologies. So the essential questions for Ms. Lantos's Unit 3 was, is there ever one truth? How can we understand perspectives different from our own? And how does literary lenses allow us to analyze text in multiple ways? So the process I went through in completing this project was Ms. Lantos first introduced us to 5 different literary lenses. So we had reader response, we had the feminist lens, Marxist lens, psychoanalytical, and post-colonial lenses. In order to familiarize ourselves with these lenses, we did a lot of practice. So we looked at poems and analyzed them through feminist lenses and psychoanalytical lenses. And then through different lenses, we looked at questions that these lenses focus on. So like a feminist lens, they focus on the oppression of women and how men are highlighted throughout our society. And a psychoanalytical lens focuses on like family dynamics in your past and the way that your mind functions, those type of things. And we also looked at short stories and did some posters and things. Make sure we got it down packed before we started the actual project. Next, Ms. Lantos introduced the essay to us. So we did a little background on African history because the author of the book, Chinua Achebe, is an African author, and we started reading the book. And the book is entitled A Man of the People. So the psychologist picked the psychoanalytical lens. And here is my thesis. If the psychoanalytical theory created by Sigmund Freud that highlights the importance of a healthy mother and son relationship is true, then Odili's behavior can be explained through this theory. Odili is the main character in the book. And by Freud's psychosexual theory, I mean that he thought that every life has a form of stages. There was 5 different stages. There was an oral phase, there was an anal stage, a philic stage, there was a latent period, and general stage. Okay, he basically felt that these different stages outlined a person's life. And when something went wrong in these stages, a person became fixated on that event, and that causes like certain problems. So like in the oral stage is when the kid or an infant is obsessed with their mouth. That's how they communicate. And when something is wrong with that, it affects them in the future. So like they might bite their nails, or like really like to eat, or always bite their lips, or certain things like that. And after we created the thesis on our claims, we found evidence. And then we created the outline and typed up our essay and turned it in. And then after we did that, we had to check it ourselves. So make the revisions that our peers and Ms. Lantos gave us, and to keep revising until they got up to proficiency. So the leadership skill that I highlighted in this artifact is thinking critically. I had to analyze the behaviors through the psychoanalytical lens, connect the behaviors to the pattern, so to Freud's psychosexuality theory. And then I applied the findings to my essay. So my knowledge of Freud's theories and of the book, and created my final essay. So in my career, I will have to take time to actually study that person, identify where they struggle and how I can help them. I will also have to analyze their behaviors after I identify the certain things that they do, pick up patterns and those type of things, and accurately evaluate them before I diagnose them or give them any type of medicine and those type of things. Questions?
So you clearly explained that you use the psychoanalytical lens to analyze this text.
Mm-hmm.
Will you give us a specific example of something from the novel
Mm-hmm.
that you use this lens to analyze, and how that changed your perspective? What's going on?
Okay, so the main character, Odili, his mother died while giving childbirth to him. And so Freud has theories that says that there's a stage that a kid goes through where the kid feels like their mother is all that they need, and they are all their mother needs. And it's called like they're fascinated with their mom. That's the thing that happens. Odili never got to experience that with his own mother because of the fact that she passed away during childbirth. So from there, I took that was the base, the core that started his behavior throughout the rest of the book. So throughout the rest of the book, he's like very promiscuous and sometimes disrespectful to women. And I took that and analyzed it as saying that he never really had that connection to begin with his mom that led him to go in the direction that he went when it came to building relationships with women. And he just did it in the wrong way. He did it in a sexual way instead of in a way that you're supposed to build a relationship with a woman.
Do you find yourself using any of these lenses in the real world?
Yes.
And if so, sort of which ones do you find compelling and how?
I didn't really consider myself a feminist at first. I became a lot more defensive with guys. I don't know, it's kind of overboard now. I don't ever think that they're trying to consider us equals anymore. I always feel like guys think they're dominant to me. I use the Marxist lens. So the Marxist lens focuses on like power and money and who has it, basically. And that lens, it helps me out a lot in government class, and it makes me question like a lot more things. So now me and Liza have conversations about like our government and how corrupt it is and changes that need to be made. Liza should run for president. She should. Just a reminder why I'm giving this.
Oops. Oh, sorry.
In the US,
Here we go. This is a nightmare. Okay.
Teamwork.
Next slide.
So I can type, or am I doing this slide? Is it me?
You're doing this, but I won't be able to type because I am presenting.
Okay, great. So based on what we just saw, where did we see evidence of any of these things? And we're going to take about 3 minutes worth of conversation because we really want you to get to the fun meat of the after the morning. All right. So
Alcine, I can type. I'll type.
You can type? Okay, great. So I will moderate. I will put it on gallery view. So just like, you have to.
Oh,
Yeah,
I got you.
So if you can unmute yourself or raise your hand physically, or if you want to use the raise hand function, I can see all of us. If you want to, do that to Douglas Fordham has a hand up. Is there anyone else who saw any evidence of the high quality performance assessment, HQPA? Doug, unmute yourself.
I'm totally sorry. I was just testing out the buttons to make sure they worked. I'm so sorry. I was like, oh yeah, this button works, right? I'm so sorry.
Doug, now you're on the hook. You got to say something.
You got to come up with something. You better come up with something, Doug.
Oh no. Oh, you guys.
Rachel might be able to help you, okay?
Yes, I will.
We're going to come back to you though. We're coming back to you.
Right.
We're not forgetting.
Guys.
It was definitely authentic.
Can you say more? What? Mm-hmm.
Just her heart. I mean, you could tell that she understood. She was passionate about it. I'm sure she was so nervous to be up there, but she didn't show it. She just looked confident, and based on what she shared too, it was authentic because even like the end when she talked about herself as a feminist, kind of answering that question, it was just really authentic.
Yeah. And so some of the features in the performance assessment design that enabled authenticity was she controlled the absolute entire presentation. She was up there for an hour. Teachers only talked when they asked her questions. So you could probably say that there was maybe a 90% of the time she was talking. So that's one of the design features of a defense. It actually gives students the opportunity to run the show. And then we're able to see what meaning making how are they making meaning of their educational experience that we have provided. Did anyone see evidence of this being a learning experience in and of itself? And I might call on Olivia Eiffel Lynch, because I know she has seen many of defenses and other performance assessments, so she understands the structures of these things. And maybe if you want to share, Olivia, unmute yourself around how performance assessments can be a learning experience in and of themselves, not to put you on the spot.
Yes, what I loved about what we saw was that the core knowledge, she shared the core knowledge. So what did the student learn? So she was able to explain what she learned And then she showed how she could apply what she learned in a real life situation and explain that, and then share the dilemmas that came up with that. You see, and getting the understanding that sometimes learning isn't like 360. You're still left with a question, and then being able to apply it to her own life and her own transformation that's always ongoing, you see? So it just had all the pieces. My only question I would have asked her is, did she believe that theory? And where, in what ways was it not, really landing? Yeah, so I would have asked that, but everything was just right on.
That's great.
And what, Abby, do you want to share what the context that you typed in the chat, just in case folks didn't see that about?
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to honor that Brooke wrote something in the chat, which is great. And I put it into the slide, and then Shannon had her hand up. So as soon as I finish talking, let's grab Shannon.
I can't find my chat anymore. Sorry, y'all.
Okay, no problem. But yeah, so in the beginning of this defense, Tarshay does this beautiful introduction. She talks about how she wants to be a psychologist. She's already decided that as a high school student. And so one of the things I love about her defense is that she actually sort of uses that as a frame and brings that into each of the artifacts as well as in her conclusion. And her conclusion is like deeply personal and really, she gets very emotional about sort of her hopes and goals for herself and her family. So, and it sort of all ties in with the psychologist thing. Okay, Shannon, do you want to share with us?
Sure. Olivia covered so much so gracefully. I guess I would just say also on the tight on criteria, well, so many of these things could fit in any one of these boxes, but just thinking about how her passion was central to this. So her criteria was really clear, but her passion and her transformation on that path also were really clear in her defense.
Often a frame of a visual that I use, Abby's going to know what I'm going to talk about, is moving from, and so if you want to look at me, if you want to put your thing on speaker view, right? Because I can't see myself, so Abby's going to tell me if I'm looking ridiculous right now.
You got it.
Yeah, so I should be looking like a funnel, right? And oftentimes with that tight on criteria and loose on path, oftentimes we as educators and designers of these assessment experiences, there's so much that we could choose from in terms of what we want students to be able to demonstrate in terms of their learning and thinking. And instead of us getting really clear on the criteria so that we can free students to find their way in the path, we become a funnel. We decide very concrete, tiny things that we want to share, we want kids to demonstrate. And so then it becomes a tiny little stream that a student can really find their way. And I want us to shift from a funnel to a flashlight, right? When you have a really clear idea as to what you want kids to know and be able to do on any performance assessment, think of it as the origin of the beam of light, right? Like the stronger the light, the more it can actually go out, and actually it dissipates, it has a farther reach, but the light is really clear. You're like, no, I'm really clear that I really want students to, I'm sorry, the neighbor is starting a car. And so I want students to really be clear as to, I want them to demonstrate these skills, this knowledge, because it is transferable, because I want to see where else they want to go with this. And so think of your tight on criteria as the light source, and loose on path, meaning that you're illuminating a path for the students to be able to navigate, all coming back to what it is that you want them to demonstrate, okay? So don't be a funnel, be a flashlight, okay? We're gonna move to the fun part of this, which is this concept of why we're here today. How do we design experiences, performance assessment experiences, so that our most marginalized, our most vulnerable learners can thrive? And yeah, Abby, if you can, yep, make that big and bright. So think of the concept of a curb cut. A curb cut is the lovely sloped part of a curb that allows us to get up and down the street, crossing streets without having to hop up a curb. Curb cuts didn't always be, and in some places they're not. And so curb cuts came into existence there was a lot of activism after folks were coming back from wars with disabilities, wheelchair bound, and they were not able to get around the cities that they had sacrificed literally life and limb for. And so they decided that that wasn't okay. And so they actually started busting up curbs in the middle of the night in different cities all over the country and pouring their own concrete ramp so that they can go in their cities with ease. Now, through different laws that came into being, the laws followed after these activists said no. These folks who were like, no, I want to be able to engage in my own freedom and liberation, and this is what I need. And then the laws caught up, right? So now you can go to any major city and you will see what Abby is showing us, curb cuts. They now even have bumps so that folks who are visually impaired can know when they're hitting a curb and they don't go into the street. Everybody uses a curb cut. It doesn't matter if you are have a physical disability. It could be temporary. It could be more permanent. You could just be moving luggage back and forth. You could be moving anything through the street, and we will use a curb cut. So the idea is that actually when we design for the most marginalized, the impact is far reaching. There's some research that shows like 97% of people use curb cuts, even though only 13% of folks have a physical disability that would need one. All right. And so that's what we want to do as well. Anyone who's been in the classroom, and I'm so glad that Olivia's on the call because she knows she was my local instructional superintendent. And in my class in the South Bronx, I would often make sure that whenever there was a student who could transition into mainstream classes, because I did not teach special ed, that I got those babies because I wanted to learn what it would mean to really center them in my teaching. And the things that I learned in order to center them became used by lots of different kids for various reasons. And so I didn't create obstacles for kids to learn. I actually created on-ramps for them to learn. And that's what we're going to do today. All right. Did I do 2 minutes, Abby? How was that? Not quite, but you get where we're going. So
great.
This is the fun part. This is you. No, this is me. So we're going to, how might we design and build a culminating assessment experience to explicitly ensure that our most marginalized students are able to thrive? We're going to use that Tarsha example. This is going to be the performance assessment that we're going to redesign. So you saw her standing up there. She had slides. She was making a point around her, her learning experience, but we can do better, okay? We have a set of student personas. These are circumstances. I just want to say life circumstances that are also attached to an identity, all right? And what we are going to do, first of all, let me just say demographics do not equal destiny, all right? Kids have lots of different demographical shifts. I had lots of different demographical shifts along my entire life. And none of those shifts determined who I was and who I am today, right? And so the first thing we need to learn is that the challenging life circumstances, whether they be poverty or a student with a disability, does not determine who they can become and who and how we should see them, all right? That's number one. Number two, these are all challenging life circumstances that are happening for our students. These are real. So what we want you to do is we're going to let you, there's 53 of us. So we're going to let you go into whichever, we're going to assign you to a group. You're going to get a group 1 through 6. So there's going to be 6 groups. We're going to randomly assign you to groups. You're going to be working with other people there. You're going to have a persona. So group 1, you're going to have Latinx. Group, your number is going to correspond with, the group number is going to correspond with your persona. And what you're going to do in this part is you're going to brainstorm what are all the assets and strengths you as this student brings to this type of performance assessment, the portfolio defense, right? And then you're also going to think about what are some challenges that you would encounter if you were trying to do this performance assessment. And then you're going to situate what would you need in order to thrive, okay? What if you were this student, what would you need in order to thrive? And you're going to list hopefully 3 or 4 different shifts to this assessment, to this portfolio defense design that will enable you to thrive. And then we're going to bring those back because those are the shifts that we will then make to our performance assessment. We're going to see how some of these shifts actually overlap, and we're going to see how what becomes what's beautiful as a result. So Got it?
So I'm going to stop sharing because I need to do the breakout rooms, but I wanted to make sure that people saw these slides. But again, you have access to these slides, and this
Yep.
is probably going to be your best. Just as a reminder, Alcine has done a really good job of presenting the power of starting with the I or we. So you're really placing yourself in that student persona. So just sort of refer to this slide in case once you get into your breakout, you're like, oh, what are we supposed to do? And then I'm going to stop sharing and do the breakout rooms. The one thing that I want to add to what Alcine was saying is that so many times when we go around and have people watch things like Tarche, like the defense, people oftentimes are so inspired and they're great. And then their first response is, but my students can't, or but this student won't. And I think sometimes people do default to that. And so we developed this activity to sort of say, actually, that's the exact opposite. That we want folks, the frame that we want folks to have, because oftentimes what we found is that these performance assessments really allow all different types of students to show their knowledge in like truly deeply transformative ways. And we need to create them with those on-ramps to make sure that all students can access this experience. So I just wanted to sort of add that.
Do you have the rooms already set up?
I do. I do.
Real quick, why am I using the term marginalized? Here's why. I know that's a controversial term, and I'm not using it to name the kiddos. I'm using it to be very transparent that we as designers of the system marginalize people. It is not an identity, it is what we do. And so this is a process in which we can undo that. That when we actually shift to center the folks who would be most vulnerable, or maybe the afterthought, and we actually design for those students, we no longer are marginalizing folks. So I use that term not to identify who the kids are. I use that term to identify a process that we do often as designers. Okay, so we're not going to do that anymore. That's part of this empathy work that we're trying to build. All right, so you're gonna go into your groups. You're gonna be using slides. Let me check on my slide deck.
16 to 21.
16 to 21.
Yep.
And yeah, have fun. We'll see you in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, and please, as you accept your room, pay attention to the number, because that's your group. So if it says like, oh, enter room 3, you're in group 3. So just pay attention to the breakout room number, and then we'll be connecting with you guys, broadcasting the messages, etc. So enjoy. Hopefully the directions are clear. Go to it.
I'm not going to join breakout room 3 because I was yeah. Okay. See you in 15 minutes, y'all. All right, so you have to hit join breakout if you see it on your, because we have a few folks in room 2. Do you see that on your screen, those of you? And actually, we might want to. Okay. I'm just checking to see.
Yeah, people are getting there.
Yep, they're getting there. I think Hope, you're supposed to be in room 5. Kimberly in room 5. Shannon's working all alone. She needs some help.
Jonathan, Lannon, you all are going to room 1.
Okay. Do you need help getting there? Would you like me to make you go? Or is there? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna start moving people around who are by themselves.
Is anyone by themselves? Well, room 1 has 2. Okay.
Okay. Room 1 has 2 now.
Yeah.
Tanya, welcome. We're just setting people off into breakout rooms. So Tanya, I'm going to put you into a breakout room, and hopefully the folks who are there can help clue you in on what we're doing. I believe that they will be able to do that. Okay, everybody else has enough. Yeah, I think we're good. So William, Lannon, and Lynette just doesn't sound like they're interested in joining the breakout rooms.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we have about, we're going to have about 5 minutes left when we come back.
Please remember to use I and we statements and type right into your groups slide. Okay, let me go to room 4.
Hey, Abby. You're muted.
I need to broadcast to everybody because the permissions were not, I just fixed the permissions.
It didn't say edit? Uh-oh.
It just said view. If you cannot edit,
Oh.
refresh
Yep, thank you.
your slides.
There we go.
You can type directly in. Okay, broadcast. Okay. And I think Jane, yeah, Jane, you just came in. Jane, welcome to the session. Are you there?
I'm here. I got kicked out when I moved into breakouts.
Oh, criminy. Okay, let's put you in one. Do you remember which one you were in?
I was in 3.
Okay, I'm gonna send you there again. Hopefully you will not get kicked out. Zoom is not super friendly.
Yeah, I tried to join a breakout and it sent me somewhere, galactic.
It happens.
Okay, right? See if that works, Jane.
Okay, I'm gonna duck under my desk. I gotta get my power cord. Okay, so yeah, so
we got some folks back already, and thanks for coming back from the rooms. Everyone else is probably still furiously typing, so we will welcome them as they come in. Everyone will be back in 15 seconds, whether they like it or not.
I know. Okay, where's my mouse? Okay, there's the mouse.
All right.
Okay, there we go.
All right, so everybody is back.
Chris, there's someone. Yep, there we go.
He's got it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got it. All right, so everyone is back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for just jumping in there and taking this on. While you were away, Alcine and I had a discussion. This is the first time we've tried to do this activity in 60 minutes, and I think we both are agreeing that there's just too much richness in it, and so we just want to sort of name that we in the future will not try to do this in 60 minutes because there's just a lot to do, to think about, and then we really wish we had more time to debrief. So I wanted to offer that. Alcine, you want to talk about some of the shifts that we are seeing folks sharing?
Yeah, so normally what we would do is we would have this lovely moment where we would name, we would look at other people's work and see the different shifts that people recommended, and then we would look at where there was commonality and shifts that seemed to meet the needs for several learners. And so I just want to name this shift because it's come up in group 1 named it. I think group 3 also named it, or group 4, I can't remember, but it's the shift of needing high quality asynchronous things happening for the student, especially around learning, but also around with the assessment. And so one of the beautiful shifts that we have seen, right, because as you notice, the the portfolio defense process is normally done in person, but with COVID, we've had to shift it to virtual. And that presented a wonderful opportunity for some students to be able to do this thing asynchronously. So they will create their slides, they'll work through their slides, they'll pre-record their defense, and then they can do whatever they need to do and process that. And the teacher can also, their committee can also process that. And then they will get back with the student either on a Zoom meeting or even a phone call if the student has a really tough life schedule, whether their internet is in and out. And then the teacher will ask them questions and do the defense part of the presentation. And so that has been helpful for some kids, especially kids who have schedules that don't permit them to necessarily be doing work during the school hours if they have to work, if they have to take care of siblings like our group one. So that's a shift that we're seeing. And do you see how we're baking it into the design? That is an option we're giving students when we talk about how do you want to defend your learning. Abby, what's another shift you see? You're muted.
Yep, sorry, I just realized that. Another shift that we saw that I really love that people were sort of recognizing was this need for really high quality collaboration. And what I think is true is that is true between students and between students and adults. What we found, again, as Alcine was saying, in the spring when we shifted to remote and people had to quickly pivot to figure out how are we going to figure out what kids know this year as we were in virtual space, those who went forward with defenses in a virtual context, so many schools or systems realized they had to have students have a stronger connection to an adult or mentor that was going to collaborate with them on this process. So students were put in, the same with students. So students were put into smaller groups. If a school had an advisory program, you could really leverage that. If you didn't, we had schools just set up like defense teams or defense cohorts of students who in the Zoom space could like work together on a regular basis and help each other. But then also schools really leveraged every adult in the system. So every adult who's a part of the school community, parents and community members who are willing to sort of jump in. That way students could work one-to-one with an adult who was sort of taking them through this process, checking in, offering them that really important support, emotional support, but also some accountability and tech help, right? So if you've got a student who doesn't have reliable technology, that adult can help them sort of work with that. So we were just, Alcine and I, as we were reading what you said, we really saw so much rich thought that you put into both those I statements of the strengths. The group that was working on some of them, it was just like gorgeous to see you starting with those strengths, but then also to hear you all pulling out some really strong ideas of the shifts that would be needed for students to thrive. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in our last 2 minutes, y'all, where did this hour go? This is madness.
We want like 2 days with you guys. We can't do this in 60 minutes.
We're learning along with you. In our last 2 minutes, here's what we want, because once again, this slide, and thank you for the note on the marginalization, right? Remember, we are the ones who do the marginalizing. We are the adults designing these systems. So how can we shift our beliefs and our practices so that we design with inclusivity at the center, right? So here's the beautiful question Abby Bay is going to leave us with. Sorry.
So the question we want you to leave with is to identify who is that stakeholder group you want to center, and I would say center first, right? Because we need to center, more than one. But who is that stakeholder group? Is it one of those identities that we provided? Is it a version of that? Who is that group for you all in your system that you want to center, and what do you want to learn from those brilliant, beautiful humans? So really picking like a question that you want to explore with them to better understand what ramp they need. What is the curb cut that they need, and how can you really work that in to the design of an assessment? And that could be an assessment that happens in one day, in one class, once and never again, or it could be something as big as like a portfolio defense or a capstone project or a student-led conference. But we really think the first thing we have to do is listen. We have to listen and learn to those humans.
And I want to just highlight what Olivia said, if you can go back to the chat, she put in a beautiful like paragraph, like she's always teaching. I just love. And it's also about focusing on their assets. So whatever question you want to explore, make sure you're not coming at it from a deficit mindset. Make sure you're not coming at it from like, okay, from the perspective that these students don't already bring some beautiful, lovely, wonderful ways in which they have made room for themselves in the world that we as adults can start intentionally designing for. They shouldn't be doing that work. That's our job, actually. And so we have to really get close and start to listen and start to look for where they are successful and how, what conditions enable them to be successful. All right.
We're so thankful that you all came and spent this time with us and shared this space. Chris has dropped the survey. If you would please just take 1 minute to fill out that survey. The slideshow has all of our contact information. We'd love to be in touch with you. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for being with us on this very, very short journey.
Connect with us on Twitter.
Yes.
At Envision Schools. If there's any goodness in there that you felt, tweet it out, connect with us. And we'll see you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Aurora
Tanya.
Institute.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Aurora. Thank you, Olivia, for your brilliance. I still got to see you in person, hopefully soon.
Have a good rest of the conference if everyone else is participating in any of the other workshops.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Oh my goodness.